Hello and welcome to this quick guide on how to use the timeline in Crayta to animate some of your things. So if you don't know what it is, the timeline is a part of the Crayta API which allows you to code animations into some of your game entities. Now, if you look in front of me, I have a voxel mesh which is shaped like a duck. And this is kind of a continuation of the PEGI tutorial I did a couple of weeks ago where I got this duck to follow you around when you've interacted with it. Now I've added another script to my duck called animate duck. And what this does is it has a timeline animation. So the way we use a timeline, or the way we can play a timeline, is using this play timeline loop, and then it's expecting some kind of Lua table. A Lua table is essentially a data structure where we can store information about the animation that we want to play. So the information will be stored in what's called keyframes. So these first three pieces of information, this 0, vector 0, rotation 0, that makes up our first keyframe for this timeline. And then we've got another one underneath. This says 5, vector new 100, rotation new 180. And what this is doing is it's saying after 5 seconds, the duck should be at position 0, 0, 100, and the rotation of the duck should be 0, 180, 0. So between this keyframe here and this keyframe here, Crayta will be managing the position of the duck so that it's animating between those 2 points and between those 2 rotations. When we do this play timeline loop, we're essentially saying repeatedly run through these 2 keyframes. So animate the duck over and over again between these 2 keyframes. Let's have a look at what happens. If I press F5, we can see that the duck has been moved to the center of the game world and it's playing through those animations on a loop. You can also add a string at the end of this, which will determine the easing function that you want your animation to use. An easing function is essentially a way of speeding up or slowing down specific points of the animation. So let's add that, and you'll see that it slows down towards the end. So it smoothly speeds up from a static position. It speeds up during the animation and then it slows down at the end. So it smoothly animates to a stop. So you can use these strings. There's ease in, there's ease out, or there's ease in out to depending on where you want that slowdown to happen. You don't have to have all of this data. If you just want the positional data, then you can just use the position like that. And if you wanted to add more keyframes, then that's totally doable too. You can just copy and paste and add some more keyframes below, depending on where you want it to move to. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky is when you want to animate something relative to its parent. So this duck, we're animating just the whole thing on its own. And actually, we're animating it based on the world's position. Now, this animated duck over here is a little bit more complicated. And I've actually pre-written this script, the animated pet script. And in here, you can see I have this walk function, and this handles almost like an entire walk cycle where I'm playing animations on each of these individual voxel meshes. So you can see I've broken that duck up into a few different voxel meshes: left foot, right foot, head, body, tail. And then I am just using the play relative timeline loop in order to play a walk cycle, and the positional data that's going on in these keyframes is the position relative to the parent. So you can see the parent here of these individual voxel meshes. The parent is a locator, and then all of these individual voxel meshes have their positions at 0, 0, 0 relative to that parent. So I'm moving them based on where the parent is. This means that wherever I put this locator, those timelines will work according to wherever that thing is. Let's have a look at this in action. So there we can see I'm using play relative timeline in order to play those. And I'm using play relative timeline loop in order to loop those animations. You can also do things like play timeline, which will play something once, or play relative timeline, which will play something once relative to its parent's position. Or you can do play timeline ping pong, or play relative timeline ping pong. And what that will do is it will play the animation forwards and then play the animation backwards immediately afterwards. And then it will just ping pong between forwards and backwards, working its way up through the keyframes and then down through the keyframes. And that's what a ping pong animation does. So there you have it. There's the basics of timeline animations. You can combine these with other scripts as well, so that you're animating your pets and they're also moving around and following you and all of that gubbins. And I really look forward to seeing what you do with these with the timeline API in Crayta.